Her name was Alera, and her life had been stolen from her before she even had the chance to choose her own path. Elara was born on the planet Vorrath, a world of opulence and power, where the elite ruled with absolute control. Her father, Lord the Lion, was one of the wealthiest and most influential men in the galaxy, commanding an empire built on riches and ruthless trade. But despite his wealth, Elara's life was never her own. From the moment she could walk, she was taught to be an asset, an object to be groomed for alliances and political leverage. Alera had no say in her future. She was the jewel of her father's collection, a prize to be sold for the right price. When she turned 18, her fate was sealed. Her father, seeking to secure a powerful alliance with a wealthy noble house from the Tauron system, decided to sell her into marriage to a man old enough to be her grandfather. Alera's heart sank the moment she learned of the arrangement. She knew her father's decisions had always been cold, calculating, and self-serving. But this was a betrayal that felt deeper than anything else. But she was a woman with little choice, and her father made it clear that disobedience would not be tolerated. She was sold like a possession, a pawn in his grand game of power. He handed her over to the Tauron noble and his entourage, treating her like nothing more than an item to be traded. The night before she was to leave for Tauron, Alera lay awake in her chambers, tears staining her pillow. She had never felt more alone. She had always hoped for freedom, for a life beyond the cold walls of her father's estate. But that dream seemed impossible now. As Alera's ship traveled to the Tauron system, she sat alone in her quarters, staring out of the viewport into the vast expanse of stars. The journey was long, and the silence was suffocating. She wondered if she would ever find a way out, if she would ever be free. It was during the journey that she met Caden. He was a human engineer working on the ship, one of the few people not involved in the political negotiations or the wealth that surrounded her. He was ordinary in appearance, with dark hair and eyes, but there was something about him that stood out. Something genuine, something untainted by the greed and power games of the galaxy. Caden was different. He treated her like a person, not a prize to be won or a burden to be carried. He spoke to her without pretension or condescension, like she was someone worth knowing. He had no idea who she was at first, just a woman on the ship, traveling to an unknown fate. But as the days passed, they began to talk. And with each conversation, something stirred within Alera, a spark she hadn't felt in years. "I don't understand," Caden said one night as they shared a quiet dinner in the galley. "Why do you look so sad? You're so much more than what you're being made to do." Alera's heart clenched at his words. No one had ever said that to her before, not even her father. "I don't have a choice," she said softly, her voice tinged with sadness. "I was sold into this life. My father made the deal. I'm nothing more than a commodity." Caden's face darkened, a flash of anger crossing his features. "That's not right. No one should have that kind of control over your life. No one should own you." For the first time, Alera felt seen. She had lived her entire life under the shadow of her father's control, always being told what to do, who to marry, what to wear. But Caden's words stirred something deep within her, something that had long been buried. She had a right to live for herself, to choose her own path, to love whoever she wanted. The bond between them grew over the following weeks. They shared stolen moments, conversations about their lives and dreams, and Alera found herself drawn to him in a way she had never imagined. The more she spoke with Caden, the more she realized that she wanted something more than just a life of survival. She wanted to be loved, to be free, to choose her own future. When the ship finally reached Tauron, Alera was not greeted by a ceremony of wealth or power as she had expected. Instead, she was met by the cold, unfeeling eyes of her future husband. He was old, cruel, and unkind, and Alera knew immediately that this was not where she belonged. As they made their way to the luxurious palace that was to be her prison, Alera made a decision. She would not let this be her fate. She would not be a puppet to her father's ambitions, nor would she be a wife to a man she despised. That night, as she stood alone in her chambers, contemplating the future her father had planned for her, she felt a familiar presence. Caden had somehow snuck into the palace, having followed her to make sure she was safe. When their eyes met, the decision was made. "Come with me," Caden said, his voice urgent but filled with warmth. "We can leave this place. We can go anywhere you want." And for the first time in her life, Alera had a choice. She was not the property of her father, not the pawn of a powerful noble. She was a woman with the power to choose her own path. She took Caden's hand, and together, they fled into the night, leaving behind the wealth and power that had been forced upon her. She was no longer a commodity, a thing to be traded. She was free, and in Caden, Alera found the love and freedom she had always dreamed of. A love that wasn't bound by power, by wealth, or by the control of others. It was real. It was hers. And in that love, she found her own future.